The morning sun cast long shadows across the grounds of Windsor Castle as 9-year-old Princess Charlotte walked through the grand corridors with her usual confident stride. Her blonde hair was neatly braided, and she wore a simple blue dress that her mother, Princess Catherine, had chosen for her. Today was different from other days because Charlotte had noticed something troubling happening around the castle, something that made her feel upset and angry. For weeks now, Charlotte had been watching how Queen Camilla treated the royal guards. These were the same guards who had protected her family for years, who stood outside in all kinds of weather, and who always smiled and nodded politely when she passed by. Charlotte knew their names. There was Guard Thompson, who always had candy in his pocket, Guard Williams, who told her funny jokes, and Guard Peterson, who had served the royal family for over 20 years. But, lately, things had changed. Queen Camilla had been making new rules and giving harsh orders that seemed unfair to Charlotte. Just yesterday, she had seen Queen Camilla scolding Guard Thompson for moving slightly during his duty. The day before that, she heard Camilla telling Guard Williams that his uniform wasn't perfect enough and that he needed to stand for extra hours as punishment. Charlotte felt her heart beating fast as she remembered these moments. She had always been taught by her parents, Prince William and Princess Catherine, to treat everyone with respect and kindness. Her grandfather, King Charles, had also taught her that being royal meant taking care of people, not making their lives harder. As she walked past the main entrance, Charlotte saw Queen Camilla approaching Guard Peterson. The elderly guard stood at attention, his face serious and professional as always. Charlotte quickly hid behind a large marble pillar to listen to what was happening. "Peterson," Queen Camilla said in a cold voice that made Charlotte shiver. "I've noticed you've been looking tired during your duties. Perhaps you're getting too old for this position. Maybe it's time to consider retirement." Charlotte watched as Guard Peterson's face showed a flash of hurt before returning to his professional expression. "Your Majesty, I assure you I am fully capable of performing my duties. I have served the royal family faithfully for many years." "Well, faithfully isn't enough anymore," Queen Camilla replied sharply. "I expect perfection. If I see any sign of weakness or tiredness again, you'll be replaced immediately. Do I make myself clear?" "Yes, Your Majesty," Guard Peterson said quietly, but Charlotte could see the sadness in his eyes. Charlotte felt tears forming in her own eyes as she watched this exchange. Guard Peterson was like family to her. He had been there when she was born, had protected her during public events, and had always been kind to her. How could Queen Camilla be so mean to him? After Queen Camilla walked away, Charlotte emerged from behind the pillar. She looked at Guard Peterson, who was trying to maintain his professional composure even though she could tell he was upset. "Guard Peterson," Charlotte said softly, approaching him carefully. The guard looked down at the young princess with surprise. "Princess Charlotte, you shouldn't be talking to me during my duty hours." "I don't care about the rules right now," Charlotte said, her voice showing determination that surprised even herself. "Are you okay? I heard what Queen Camilla said to you." Guard Peterson's eyes softened as he looked at the caring young princess. "I'm fine, Your Highness. Thank you for your concern, but please don't worry about me." "But I do worry about you," Charlotte insisted. "You've been protecting my family since before I was born. You're important to us. Queen Camilla shouldn't talk to you like that." Guard Peterson looked around nervously, making sure no one else could hear their conversation. "Princess Charlotte, I appreciate your kindness, but Queen Camilla is now the queen. She has the right to give orders and make decisions about the staff." "Having the right to do something doesn't make it right," Charlotte said, surprising herself with her own words. She had heard her mother say something similar once when they were discussing fairness and justice. Charlotte spent the rest of the morning thinking about what she had witnessed. She couldn't concentrate on her lessons with her tutor, and she barely touched her lunch. Her mind kept returning to the hurt look in Guard Peterson's eyes and the cold tone in Queen Camilla's voice. During her afternoon break, Charlotte decided to explore more of the castle to see if she could observe how Queen Camilla was treating other staff members. What she discovered made her even more upset. In the kitchen area, she overheard Queen Camilla criticizing the head cook for the way the afternoon tea was prepared. "This is completely unacceptable," Camilla was saying. The scones are too dry, and the tea is too weak. How do you expect me to serve this to important guests? The cook, who had been working for the royal family for 15 years, looked embarrassed and apologetic. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I'll prepare everything again immediately. You certainly will, Queen Camilla replied. And, from now on, I want to personally inspect every meal before it's served. Clearly, the standards have dropped around here. Charlotte watched as the hard-working cook looked defeated and tired. This was the same cook who had made special birthday cakes for Charlotte and her brothers, who always remembered their favorite foods, and who worked long hours to make sure the royal family was well fed. Later that afternoon, Charlotte witnessed another incident in the gardens. Queen Camilla was speaking harshly to the head gardener about the flower arrangements. These roses are pathetic, she said loudly. They're not arranged properly, and some of them are starting to wilt. This is embarrassing. What will people think when they see the royal gardens looking like this? The gardener, an older man who had maintained the beautiful castle gardens for decades, looked hurt and confused. Your Majesty, these roses were just picked this morning. They're fresh and healthy. Perhaps if you could tell me specifically what you'd like changed. What I'd like changed is your attitude, Queen Camilla interrupted. I shouldn't have to explain basic gardening to someone who's supposed to be a professional. Figure it out, or find someone else who can do the job properly. Charlotte felt her anger growing stronger with each incident she witnessed. These people weren't just employees, they were part of her extended family. They had been there for important moments in her life, had celebrated with the royal family during happy times, and had worked tirelessly to maintain the castle and take care of everyone who lived there. That evening, during dinner with her family, Charlotte found it hard to eat. She kept thinking about Guard Peterson's sad eyes, the cook's embarrassed face, and the gardener's confusion. Her parents noticed that she seemed quiet and distracted. Charlotte, is everything all right? Princess Catherine asked gently. You seem upset about something. Charlotte looked around the dinner table at her father Prince William, her mother, and her younger brother Prince Louis. She wanted to tell them what she had witnessed, but she wasn't sure how to explain it or if they would understand her feelings. I'm just thinking about some things, Charlotte said carefully. King Charles, who was also at dinner, noticed his granddaughter's troubled expression. Sometimes when we're thinking about difficult things, it helps to talk about them with people we trust. Charlotte looked at her grandfather, remembering all the conversations they had shared about what it meant to be part of the royal family. He had always told her that their job was to serve the people and to treat everyone with dignity and respect. Grandfather, Charlotte said slowly, what should someone do if they see something that seems unfair happening to people they care about? King Charles put down his fork and gave Charlotte his full attention. That's a very important question, Charlotte. Can you tell me more about what you mean? Charlotte took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. Well, what if someone with power is being mean to people who work hard and do their jobs well? What if they're making those people feel bad for no good reason? Prince William and Princess Catherine exchanged a quick glance, sensing that their daughter was talking about something specific that was bothering her. If someone sees unfairness happening, King Charles said thoughtfully, especially if they're in a position to help, then they have a responsibility to speak up. But speaking up requires courage and wisdom. You have to think carefully about the best way to address the situation. But what if the person being unfair has more power than you do? Charlotte asked. Even then, her father Prince William said, standing up for what's right is important. Sometimes the most powerful thing someone can do is show kindness and support to people who are being treated unfairly. Charlotte felt a spark of hope in her chest. Her family's words gave her confidence that her feelings were right and that maybe there was something she could do to help. After dinner, Charlotte went to her room and sat by her window, looking out at the castle grounds where she knew the guards were still standing at their posts, protecting her family even during the cold evening. She thought about Guard Peterson, who would soon finish his shift and go home to his own family, probably still feeling hurt by Queen Camilla's harsh words. Charlotte made a decision that night. She didn't know exactly what she would do yet, but she knew she couldn't just watch while good people were being treated badly. Her parents and grandfather had taught her that being a princess meant more than wearing pretty dresses and living in a castle. It meant standing up for people who needed help and using whatever power she had to make things better. As she got ready for bed, Charlotte felt a mix of nervousness and determination. Tomorrow, she would find a way to let Guard Peterson and the other staff members know that she saw their hard work and appreciated everything they did. And, somehow, she would figure out how to address the problem with Queen Camilla's treatment of the castle staff. Looking at herself in the mirror before going to sleep, Charlotte saw not just a 9-year-old princess, but someone who could make a difference. Her mother had always told her that even small acts of kindness could have a big impact, and her father had taught her that true nobility came from caring about others. Charlotte fell asleep that night with a plan beginning to form in her mind, knowing that tomorrow would be the start of something important. The next morning, Princess Charlotte woke up earlier than usual with her plan clear in her mind. She had spent most of the night thinking about how she could help the royal staff and show them that their work was valued and appreciated. Her first step would be to do something special for Guard Peterson and the other guards who had been treated harshly by Queen Camilla. Charlotte quickly got dressed and made her way to the kitchen before her regular breakfast time. She wanted to speak with the head cook, Mrs. Henderson, who had looked so upset after Queen Camilla's criticism the day before. When Charlotte entered the kitchen, she found Mrs. Henderson already busy preparing breakfast for the royal family. The older woman looked tired and stressed, moving around the kitchen with less of the usual cheerfulness that Charlotte remembered. "Good morning, Mrs. Henderson," Charlotte said politely. The cook looked surprised to see the young princess in the kitchen so early. "Oh, Princess Charlotte. Good morning, Your Highness. Is everything all right? Do you need something for breakfast?" "Actually, I wanted to ask you for help with something special," Charlotte said, her voice filled with determination. "I want to prepare a special thank you breakfast for the guards. Could you help me make something nice for them?" Mrs. Henderson's face lit up with surprise and pleasure. "That's very thoughtful of you, Princess. Of course I can help. What did you have in mind?" Charlotte had already thought about this. "I know Guard Thompson likes chocolate croissants, and Guard Williams mentioned once that he loves fresh fruit tarts. And, for Guard Peterson, he always talks about his wife's homemade cookies, so maybe we could make some cookies that remind him of home?" The cook's eyes filled with tears of happiness. "Princess Charlotte, that is one of the kindest things I've heard in a long time. Let's make the most wonderful breakfast those guards have ever had." For the next 2 hours, Charlotte and Mrs. Henderson worked together in the kitchen. Charlotte helped mix ingredients, learned how to properly fold pastry dough, and carefully arranged fresh fruits on the tarts. As they worked, Mrs. Henderson shared stories about each of the guards and how long they had been serving the royal family. "Guard Peterson has been here since before your father was born," Mrs. Henderson explained as they prepared the cookie dough. "He's seen 3 generations of royals grow up. He used to tell me stories about your grandfather when he was young." "Really?" Charlotte asked, genuinely interested. "What kind of stories?" "Oh, he used to get into all sorts of mischief," Mrs. Henderson laughed. "Guard Peterson would have to chase him around the gardens when he escaped from his tutors. Your grandfather was quite the adventurous child." Charlotte smiled, thinking about how her serious grandfather had once been a mischievous child like herself. It made her feel even more connected to the long history of people who had lived and worked in this castle. As they put the finishing touches on the special breakfast, Charlotte heard footsteps approaching the kitchen. Her heart sank when she recognized the sharp clicking sound of Queen Camilla's shoes on the marble floor. "What is going on in here?" Queen Camilla's voice cut through the warm atmosphere of the kitchen like a cold wind. Charlotte and Mrs. Henderson both turned to face the Queen, who stood in the doorway with her arms crossed and a disapproving expression on her face. "Your Majesty," Mrs. Henderson said quickly, "Princess Charlotte was helping me prepare a special breakfast for the guards." Queen Camilla's eyes narrowed as she looked at the beautiful array of pastries, tarts, and cookies that Charlotte and Mrs. Henderson had prepared with such care. "And why exactly are you preparing special food for the staff?" Queen Camilla asked Charlotte directly, her voice cold and sharp. Charlotte felt her heart beating fast, but she remembered her parents' words about speaking up for what was right. Because they work very hard to protect us, and I wanted to show them that we appreciate everything they do. The staff are paid to do their jobs, Queen Camilla replied curtly. They don't need special treatment or rewards for simply doing what they're supposed to do. This is inappropriate and sets a bad precedent. Charlotte felt her cheeks getting hot with anger, but she tried to keep her voice calm and respectful. My grandfather taught me that showing appreciation for people's hard work is part of being a good leader. Queen Camilla's face turned red with anger at Charlotte's response. Your grandfather is not the one making decisions about how this household is run. I am the queen now, and I decide what is appropriate behavior. This little project of yours ends right now. But we already made the food, Charlotte said, looking at all the beautiful breakfast items they had spent hours preparing. It would be wasteful to throw it away. Then, the kitchen staff can eat it themselves, Queen Camilla said dismissively. But you will not be delivering special treats to the guards like some kind of servant. You are a princess, and you need to learn to maintain proper distance from the staff. Charlotte felt tears starting to form in her eyes, but she blinked them back. She refused to let Queen Camilla see her cry. There's nothing wrong with being kind to people who are kind to us. Kindness and appropriate royal behavior are two different things, Queen Camilla snapped. You clearly need to learn the difference. You will not speak to the guards about this breakfast, and you will not be preparing any more special treats for the staff. Is that understood? Charlotte looked at Mrs. Henderson, who was standing quietly with her head down, obviously uncomfortable with the confrontation. Charlotte could see that the cook was disappointed and sad about not being able to share their special creation with the guards. I understand what you're saying, Charlotte said carefully, but I don't agree with it. Queen Camilla's eyes flashed with anger. Whether you agree with it or not is irrelevant. You are a child, and you will do as you're told. Now go to your room and think about what appropriate behavior looks like for a princess. Charlotte felt her anger growing stronger, but she also felt something else, a determination that surprised her. She looked Queen Camilla directly in the eyes and said, I'll go to my room, but I won't stop caring about people who have been kind to my family. With that, Charlotte walked out of the kitchen with her head held high, leaving Queen Camilla and Mrs. Henderson behind. As she made her way through the corridors toward her room, Charlotte's mind was racing with thoughts and emotions. Instead of going directly to her room, Charlotte made a detour to find Guard Peterson at his morning post. She needed to see him and let him know that even if she couldn't give him the special breakfast, she still cared about what happened to him. When she found Guard Peterson standing at attention near the main entrance, Charlotte approached him quietly. Guard Peterson, she said softly. He looked down at her with surprise. Princess Charlotte, shouldn't you be at breakfast with your family? I wanted to talk to you first, Charlotte said. I heard what Queen Camilla said to you yesterday, and I want you to know that I think you're one of the best guards we've ever had. You're important to our family, and you shouldn't let anyone make you feel otherwise. Guard Peterson's face showed a mix of gratitude and concern. Princess Charlotte, that's very kind of you to say, but you shouldn't worry about these things. Adults can handle their own problems. But it's not just an adult problem, Charlotte insisted. It affects all of us when good people are treated badly. You've been protecting my family since before I was born. That means something. Before Guard Peterson could respond, Charlotte heard the familiar sharp clicking of Queen Camilla's shoes approaching from behind her. Princess Charlotte, Queen Camilla's voice was filled with anger. I thought I told you to go to your room. What are you doing here talking to the guard? Charlotte turned to face Queen Camilla, feeling her courage growing stronger. I was thanking Guard Peterson for his years of service to our family. You were disobeying my direct orders, Queen Camilla corrected. And you're causing disruption during the guard's duty hours. This behavior is completely unacceptable. Charlotte looked back at Guard Peterson, who was obviously uncomfortable being in the middle of this conflict. She could see the worry in his eyes, not just for himself but for her as well. Guard Peterson, Queen Camilla said sharply, turning her attention to him, since Princess Charlotte seems to be so concerned about your well-being, perhaps this is a good time to discuss your future here. Your performance has been declining, and your age is beginning to show.
I think it's time for you to consider stepping down from your position."
Charlotte watched in horror as Guard Peterson's face went pale. She could see the shock and pain in his eyes, and she knew that Queen Camilla was being deliberately cruel. "Your Majesty," Guard Peterson said quietly, "I have always performed my duties to the best of my ability.
If there are specific concerns about my performance, I would be happy to address them."
"The concern is that you're no longer fit for this position," Queen Camilla replied coldly. "And the fact that you're receiving sympathy from a 9-year-old princess suggests that other people have noticed your decline as well." Charlotte felt a surge of anger that was stronger than anything she had ever experienced. Queen Camilla was using Charlotte's kindness as a weapon against Guard Peterson, and that felt incredibly unfair and wrong.
"That's not true,"
Charlotte said loudly, her voice echoing through the corridor.
"I wasn't showing sympathy because Guard Peterson is declining.
I was showing appreciation because he's been doing an excellent job for our family for over 20 years.
Queen Camilla turned to Charlotte with a look of fury.
"How dare you raise your voice to me?
You are out of line, and this conversation is over. Guard Peterson, you will report to the head of security this afternoon to discuss your immediate retirement.
Princess Charlotte, you will go to your room right now and stay there until your parents return from their engagements this evening." Charlotte looked at Guard Peterson, who was trying to maintain his professional composure despite the obvious distress he was feeling. She looked at Queen Camilla, who was using her power to hurt people who couldn't defend themselves. And she made a decision that would change everything. "No," Charlotte said clearly and firmly.
"Excuse me?" Queen Camilla said, clearly not believing what she had heard.
"I said no," Charlotte repeated, her voice growing stronger. "I won't go to my room, and I won't stay quiet while you treat good people badly.
Guard Peterson doesn't deserve to be forced into retirement just because you want to show your power."
The corridor fell completely silent except for the sound of Charlotte's heart beating loudly in her ears. She had never directly defied an adult's authority like this before, especially not a member of the royal family. But she knew that this was a moment when staying quiet would be wrong. Queen Camilla's face was now completely red with anger, and Charlotte could see that she was struggling to control her temper. "You have just made the biggest mistake of your young life, Princess Charlotte.
When your parents hear about this behavior, you will face consequences that you can't even imagine."
Charlotte felt scared, but she also felt proud of herself for standing up for what she believed was right. She looked at Guard Peterson one more time, seeing a mix of admiration and worry in his eyes. "Maybe I will face consequences," Charlotte said, "but at least I'll know that I tried to help someone who has always helped my family." The tension in the corridor was so thick that Charlotte could almost feel it pressing down on her shoulders. Queen Camilla stood frozen for a moment, clearly shocked that a 9-year-old had dared to openly defy her authority. Guard Peterson remained at attention, but Charlotte could see the worry and admiration warring in his expression. "Princess Charlotte," Queen Camilla said, her voice dangerously low, "you will regret this moment for the rest of your life. No one, absolutely no one, speaks to the Queen of England the way you just did." Charlotte felt her knees trembling slightly, but she kept her chin raised and her eyes focused on Queen Camilla's face. "My great-grandmother Queen Elizabeth taught me that being a queen means protecting people, not hurting them for no reason." The mention of Queen Elizabeth seemed to hit Queen Camilla like a physical blow. Her face went through several different expressions before settling on a cold, calculated look that made Charlotte's stomach feel sick. "Your great-grandmother is no longer here to give you advice," Queen Camilla said slowly. "I am the queen now, and my rules are the only ones that matter in this household. Since you seem determined to involve yourself in staff matters, let me make something very clear to you."
Queen Camilla turned to face Guard Peterson directly.
"Guard Peterson, you are hereby relieved of your duties effective immediately. You will clear out your belongings and leave the premises within the hour.
Your final pay will be sent to you in the mail." Charlotte watched in horror as Guard Peterson's face went completely white.
She could see 23 years of loyal service being thrown away in a single moment, all because she had tried to stand up for him. "Your Majesty," Guard Peterson said, his voice barely above a whisper, "surely there must be some mistake. I have served this family faithfully for over 2 decades. If there are performance issues, please allow me the opportunity to address them. There are no performance issues, Queen Camilla replied coldly.
This is about maintaining proper boundaries and ensuring that staff members understand their place.
Your dismissal will serve as an example to others about what happens when those boundaries are crossed. Charlotte felt tears streaming down her face as she realized what her actions had caused. In trying to help Guard Peterson, she had actually made everything worse for him. The guilt and shame were almost overwhelming, but underneath those feelings, her anger was growing even stronger.
This is my fault, Charlotte said, her voice cracking with emotion. Guard Peterson didn't do anything wrong. If you're angry with someone, be angry with me, not with him.
Queen Camilla turned back to Charlotte with a satisfied smile that made Charlotte feel even sicker.
Oh, don't worry, Princess Charlotte.
You will definitely face your own consequences. But, Guard Peterson's fate was sealed the moment you decided to involve yourself in adult matters. Perhaps this will teach you to mind your own business in the future. Charlotte looked at Guard Peterson, who was standing perfectly still, but she could see tears forming in his eyes. This man who had dedicated his life to protecting her family was losing his job because she had tried to be kind to him. I'm so sorry, Charlotte whispered to Guard Peterson.
I never meant for this to happen.
Guard Peterson looked down at her with a gentle expression despite his own pain. Princess Charlotte, you have nothing to apologize for. Standing up for what you believe is right is never something to be ashamed of, even when it doesn't work out the way you hoped. How touching, Queen Camilla said sarcastically.
A final moment of bonding before Guard Peterson leaves forever.
I hope you'll both remember this lesson about the consequences of inappropriate behavior. Charlotte wiped her tears with the back of her hand and looked up at Queen Camilla with an expression that was beyond her 9 years. The only lesson I'm learning is that some people use their power to hurt others instead of helping them.
Queen Camilla's eyes flashed with dangerous anger. You clearly haven't learned anything at all.
Since you seem so concerned about the staff, let me share some additional decisions I've been considering. Mrs. Henderson's cooking has been subpar lately, and perhaps she too needs to think about retirement. And that gardener who can't seem to keep the roses properly arranged might benefit from finding employment elsewhere. Charlotte's heart sank as she realized that Queen Camilla was threatening to punish other innocent staff members because of her actions. The cook who had helped her make the special breakfast, the gardener who worked so hard to keep the castle grounds beautiful, they could all lose their jobs because Charlotte had tried to stand up for what was right. Please don't punish them, Charlotte said, her voice filled with desperation.
They haven't done anything wrong. They're good people who work hard for our family.
Then, perhaps you should have thought about that before you decided to challenge my authority, Queen Camilla replied. Every action has consequences, Princess Charlotte. The question is whether you care more about your pride or about protecting the people you claim to care about. Charlotte felt trapped and helpless. If she continued to stand up to Queen Camilla, more innocent people would suffer. But, if she backed down and apologized, Queen Camilla would learn that she could use threats against others to control Charlotte's behavior. Before Charlotte could decide what to do, she heard familiar footsteps approaching from the far end of the corridor. Her heart leaped with hope when she recognized the sound of her father Prince William's shoes on the marble floor. Prince William appeared around the corner, dressed in his formal morning attire for what Charlotte remembered was supposed to be an important meeting. His expression was confused as he took in the scene, his daughter with tears on her face, Queen Camilla looking furious, and Guard Peterson standing rigidly at attention with obvious distress in his expression.
What's going on here?
Prince William asked, his voice calm but with an undertone that suggested he was already concerned about what he was seeing. Queen Camilla immediately composed herself and put on a pleasant expression.
William, I'm so glad you're here.
I was just dealing with a disciplinary situation involving Princess Charlotte and some inappropriate behavior with the staff. Prince William looked at his daughter's tear-stained face and, then, at Guard Peterson's pale expression. Charlotte could see her father's sharp intelligence working to piece together what had really happened.
Charlotte, Prince William said gently, can you tell me what's been happening?
Charlotte looked at Queen Camilla, who was watching her with a warning expression, and then, at Guard Peterson, who was trying to remain professional despite everything that had happened. She knew that whatever she said next could determine the fate of several people she cared about. "Daddy," Charlotte said, her voice small but determined, "I tried to do something nice for the guards because I saw that they were being treated unfairly. Queen Camilla got angry with me, and now she's firing Guard Peterson and threatening to fire other people too." Prince William's expression became very serious as he processed his daughter's words. He looked at Queen Camilla with a questioning expression.
"Camilla, is it true that you're dismissing Guard Peterson?"
"Yes," Queen Camilla replied, lifting her chin defensively. "He's no longer fit for his position, and this morning's events have made it clear that boundaries between the royal family and staff have become inappropriate."
"What boundaries are you referring to?"
Prince William asked, his voice taking on a tone that Charlotte recognized as her father's serious voice. "Your daughter was in the kitchen this morning preparing special food for the guards," Queen Camilla explained. "When I corrected this behavior, she became argumentative and disrespectful. Then, I found her having personal conversations with Guard Peterson during his duty hours, despite my specific instructions to avoid such contact." Prince William looked at Charlotte again, and she could see him trying to understand the full situation.
"Charlotte, is this accurate?"
"Yes," Charlotte said honestly, "but I don't think I did anything wrong. I wanted to thank the guards for protecting our family, and I wanted Guard Peterson to know that I appreciate his service. Queen Camilla was being mean to him and other people, and I couldn't just watch and do nothing." Prince William was quiet for a long moment, his eyes moving between Charlotte, Queen Camilla, and Guard Peterson. Charlotte could almost see her father thinking through the situation and trying to decide what the right response should be.
"Guard Peterson," Prince William said finally, addressing the guard directly, "how long have you been serving our family?"
23 years, Your Royal Highness," Guard Peterson replied, his voice steady despite the emotional strain he was under.
"And, in those 23 years, have there been any complaints about your performance or behavior?"
"No, sir.
This morning was the first time anyone has expressed dissatisfaction with my service."
Prince William nodded thoughtfully and then turned back to Queen Camilla. "Camilla, Guard Peterson has served our family faithfully for over 2 decades. Dismissing him without proper cause or procedure seems excessive, especially based on what I'm hearing about this morning's events."
Queen Camilla's face flushed with anger. "William, I am the Queen.
I have the authority to make decisions about household staff, and I don't appreciate having my judgment questioned by anyone, including you." Charlotte watched as her father's expression became even more serious. She could see that he was choosing his words very carefully. "Of course you have authority," Prince William replied diplomatically, "but major staffing decisions typically involve consultation with other senior family members, especially when they concern long-term employees who have served the family well."
"Are you suggesting that I don't have the right to maintain discipline in my own household?"
Queen Camilla asked, her voice rising. "I'm suggesting that this situation seems to have escalated beyond what was necessary," Prince William replied calmly. Charlotte made an error in judgment, but her intentions were good. Punishing loyal staff members for her mistakes seems disproportionate. Charlotte felt a surge of gratitude toward her father for understanding her perspective, but she also felt guilty that he was now in conflict with Queen Camilla because of her actions. "Daddy," Charlotte said quietly, "I don't want Guard Peterson or anyone else to get in trouble because of me. If Queen Camilla wants to punish me, that's okay, but please don't let her hurt people who were just trying to do their jobs." Prince William looked down at his daughter with an expression of pride and concern. Charlotte could see that he was impressed by her willingness to accept consequences for her actions, but also worried about the larger implications of what had happened. Prince William knelt down to Charlotte's eye level, placing his hands gently on her shoulders. Charlotte could see the mixture of pride and concern in her father's eyes as he looked at her tear-streaked face. "Charlotte," he said softly, "you showed courage today by standing up for people you care about. That's something your mother and I have tried to teach you. But sometimes, even when we're doing the right thing, situations become complicated." Charlotte nodded, wiping her nose with her sleeve. "I just couldn't watch Queen Camilla being mean to Guard Peterson and the others. They work so hard for us, and they've always been kind to me." Prince William stood back up and turned to face Queen Camilla, his expression becoming more formal and serious. "Camilla,
I think we need to discuss this situation privately. Perhaps we should move this conversation to my office.
There's nothing to discuss, Queen Camilla replied stiffly.
I made a decision about staff management, and that decision stands. I won't have my authority undermined by a child's emotional outburst.
Charlotte watched as her father's jaw tightened slightly. She had seen that expression before when her father was trying very hard to remain diplomatic despite being frustrated. With respect, Prince William said, his voice carefully controlled, dismissing a 23-year veteran guard without proper procedure isn't just a staff management decision.
It's a decision that affects someone's livelihood and our family's security arrangements. Before Queen Camilla could respond, Charlotte heard more footsteps approaching.
Her heart lifted when she saw her mother Princess Catherine walking toward them, along with her grandfather King Charles. Charlotte realized that word of the confrontation must have spread quickly through the castle. King Charles took in the scene with his experienced eyes, immediately sensing the tension in the air. His gaze moved from Charlotte's upset face to Guard Peterson's distressed expression, and, finally, settled on Queen Camilla's defensive posture.